Welcome to Algebra, zeros of functions, also known as roots. Now that you have been introduced to the idea of using functions, one of the techniques you will use in your future study is finding the zero of a function, also known as the root. This lesson will dive into the meaning of this important technique. Let's check it out. We take another look at the two functions we explored in the last lesson, just for a place to start. Here we found that the x value 3 was the solution for these two equations, which is an important thing to know. Another thing to know about functions is where the line actually crosses the x-axis, otherwise known as the zero, or root, of the equation. We zoom into the f of x graph, click on where it crosses the x-axis, and see the point 0.25, 0. If we enter 0.25 into our table, we indeed get 0 for the function f of 0.25. In looking at the g of x graph, we do the same thing. Click on the line where it crosses the x-axis, and see that the point at which this line crosses the x-axis is -8. And if we enter -8 as an x value in the table, we indeed get 0 as the function g of -8. Let's look at some other graphs. Can you spot the zero, or root, for each graph, the point at which the line crosses the x-axis? For this graph, you can see that it crosses at the point 2, 0. This means the zero, or root, for this graph is 2. How about this one? This graph is a curve, specifically a parabola, and it actually crosses in two places, at the point -2, 0, and also at 1, 0. This graph has two zeros, two roots, -2 and 1. What about this graph? This is an interesting curved line starting at a specific point and curving up and to the right, crossing the x-axis at the point 3, 0. And so the 0 for this graph is 3. Let's do one more. What are the roots for this graph? Well, there are 3 of them because of the curvy nature of the graph. The 3 points where the graph crosses the x-axis are -4, 0, 2, 0, and 4, 0. And so you can say the zeros for this graph are -4, 2, and 4. We can now confidently state a formal definition for the zero, or root, of a function as the x value of the point where the graph of the function crosses the x-axis, and more specifically, where the value of y for the point is 0. Another way to find the zero or root of a function, other than seeing the graph, is to solve it algebraically. For now, we'll stick with the easy ones and just do lines. Later on, you'll learn how to do curved graphs algebraically. Here is one of the examples we just examined. Using the graph, we were able to identify the zero, or root, of this function as the point 2, 0. The equation for this graph is f of x equals 3/2x minus 3. To find the zero algebraically, we simply substitute f of x with the value 0, and then solve for x. So we get 0 equals 3/2x minus 3. We add 3 to both sides to get 3 equals 3/2x. We multiply both sides by the reciprocal of 3/2, 2/3. And we get 2 equals x, which matches the point 2, 0 we found using Desmos. Let's try another one. f of x equals 2x plus 2. Using Desmos, we can see the zero, or root, is -1, 0. To find the zero algebraically, we substitute f of x with the value 0, and then solve for x. 0 equals 2x plus 2. Subtract 2 from both sides, and we get -2 equals 2x. Divide both sides by 2, and we get -1 equals x, which matches the point we found earlier using Desmos. Let's do one more. f of x equals -x plus 7. Remember, the negative implies a -1. Using Desmos, we can see the zero, or root, is 7, 0. To find the zero algebraically, we substitute f of x with the value 0 and then solve for x. 0 equals -x plus 7. We subtract 7 from both sides, and we get negative 7 equals negative 1x. We divide both sides by negative 1, and we get x equals 7, which matches the point 70, which we found using Desmos. Now we'll use Desmos to work out the zeros for some advanced functions. Here is an equation with an x squared variable term, commonly called a quadratic function. We'll study these in more depth later on, but using Desmos to find the zeros is a fairly simple process. To input the variable term x squared, first type x, then use the drop-down keyboard, which includes a special key to use, like this. Then enter the rest of the equation, add a table, and then hover over the two zeros to see the point values negative 40 and 40. Input them into the table to verify these as the roots for the function. Here is another quadratic equation. Pause the video and try it yourself in Desmos. Then resume to see the answer. We enter the equation into Desmos, generate the table, and then find the 2 points on the graph where it crossed the x-axis. Enter those values into the table, and we confirm the value of the two zeros. To summarize, the zeros, or roots, of a function are the x values of the points of a graph that cross the x-axis, where the y values are 0. You need to be able to find the zero by looking at a graph, doing the algebra, or using Desmos.